Good evening, everyone. If you could please take your seats. We're going to get started in a minute or two. Good evening and welcome, everyone. It is a pleasure to be with you tonight. My name is Dominique and I have the honor of serving as your mayor. And if we could have the lights, thank you. Thank you so much. I am also joined tonight by 5 members of our Lancaster City Council. Would you please stand and be recognized? I also want to recognize Commissioner D'Agostino. Where are you, Commissioner? Right there, thank you. And a special shout out to Dr. Woba, President of Millersville University. Can't thank you enough for opening the Ware Center to these kinds of community events, Dr. Woba. Thank you. So, wow, you all. There was over 300 people that decided to come out on a Wednesday night to learn about a comprehensive plan. A comprehensive plan. That's amazing. So many local governments really struggled to get their community excited about a public policy document such as this. And while the level of engagement and investment and the success of our city is really no surprise to those of us who live here, it should continue to be an inspiration and a point of great pride for all of you, as it is for me. So thank you very much. So tonight, we're here to talk about our future Lancaster. This is what we've been calling our comprehensive planning effort for the last 2 years, as we have engaged in discussions with the community. And I don't know if you saw the previous banners, or the banners hanging outside of the previous plans. Can we have the next slide, please? In front of the Ware Center. And here they are. There have only been 4 comprehensive plans in Lancaster's history: 1929, 1945, 1993, and 2007. And that 2007 plan was actually a multi-municipal plan that included adjacent townships. So that means that there's really not been a city-focused comprehensive plan in 30 years, which is amazing. And very much needed. So combined with the fact that there were only 4 plans in 100 years, I'd say that tonight is a pretty historical moment for our city in charting our future course. And we've changed a lot during that time. And so to chart that new path, one that is going to guide our work for at least the next 10 years, we were determined to ensure that this plan was truly, truly a reflection of our community. So the comprehensive plan effort has set a new precedent for community engagement in the city. We've had more than 14,000 interactions with community residents over the last 2 years. 14,000. We've been talking to people on the street, at community events, in public meetings, at high school football games, outside of Central Market, outside of McDonald's, in school classrooms, at senior centers, on social media, and more. We've engaged with residents in 6 different languages, many of them refugees and new Americans. And P.S., if you want to learn more about our engagement efforts citywide, inclusive of the comp plan, but so much more, please join us right back here at the Ware Center on June the 6th at 5:30, where we'll be joined by Terrence Smith from the Bloomberg Center for Public Innovation to talk about community engagement and its relationship to democracy. Okay, so now it is my pleasure to thank some folks. We've partnered with countless stakeholders to make all of this happen, and I'd like to take a moment to just recognize some of these stakeholders. First, the funders. I want to give a special shout out to our funders because it is part of the reason our public engagement process was so robust, because they provided additional and generous support to this effort. And they are the HIGH Foundation, the Funders Network Partners for Places program, the Faree Foundation, the Pennsylvania State Department of Community and Economic Development, the National Endowment for the Arts, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Community Development Block Grant. And if you are representing any of those organizations, will you please stand so that we may recognize you? Thank you. Next is a group of 17 community members, residents, who helped us kick off the comprehensive plan and provided the city invaluable feedback. This comprehensive plan committee reviewed our outreach strategy, made recommendations, volunteered at events, and dedicated countless hours to reviewing the city's work. I'm going to name each of the 17 members, and if you're present, I'd love you if you would please just stand up, and then we can give you a round of applause at the end. So first, Kristen Krimmel, Lisa Colon, Yaima Lopez, Cindy Sawicki. Now come on, you guys, I know you're here, stand up. Carrie Sharon Wright, Holly Kutz, Juan Aviles, Heidi Castillo, Mark Stoner, Maxine Cook, Jugans Laguerre, Ehsan Al-Hussani, Philip Cabasa, Steve Cook, Mimi Poe, Casey Flores, Sue Mackey, John Suarez, and Vashti Laguerre. The next is a group of over 100 community leaders that were part of our technical advisory committees. And these committees ran the gamut in terms of topic areas. They included business owners, government officials, artists, pastors, designers, neighborhood leaders, and many others. There's just too many of them for me to name individually tonight, but if you've generously offered your time and expertise to one of our advisory committees, would you also please stand and be recognized? And don't be shy, please. City staff, wow, this is a 2-year effort, and it has taken significant work from our team. And while we did have some very important help from our consultants, our Department of Community Planning and Economic Development, under the leadership of Chris Delfs, has done the bulk of the work from community engagement to writing the policies that you have in front of you tonight. If you're a member of the Community Planning and Economic Development Department, would you just stand up, please? Okay, so Paula Jackson, our city historian here, just reminded me that I asked her to come into my office before she retired after, what's that, 48 years of service to the city. And she said, I asked her for her advice about doing this comp plan, and she said, it needs to be from the community. And tonight she said, you know what, you did it. It's really from the community. And so I just need to give you a heartfelt thanks on behalf of the city to our amazing community. You all have engaged with us in so many different ways during this process, and I just really want to give all of you a round of applause. Okay, so art has been a thread that we have woven through our engagement efforts, and there are 3 amazing artists that are joining us tonight. Shauna Yordi, Sir Dominique Jordan, and Evita Colon. Yeah? Give it up. So Sir Dominique and Shauna are part of the Pace Neighbors, which was a special 1.5-year artist residency funded by the National Endowment of Arts to allow city artists the opportunity to identify and address issues in their own communities. And Shauna, a multidisciplinary artist who describes her work as planting seeds and building connections, is here tonight sharing a felt map of her neighborhood. And if you didn't already see it, please be sure to check out her work in the atrium. It's off to my right. Also joining us is Sir Dominique Jordan, known for his artivism, spoken word, poetry, and community leadership. And you will be hearing from him in just a minute or so. And finally, Evita Cologne, Lancaster City's first poet laureate. Will be providing a concluding performance. And I just want to say that both Sir Dominique and Evita will be sharing original works of art for this evening, and we're so grateful for their creative inspiration to this process. And I hope that we can continue to do this type of work together. So please put your hands together to welcome Sir Dominique to the stage.
Sheesh. Oh, I got some folks that know me in the building. That's a beautiful thing. For one, I want to say I'm really thankful for the opportunity to be able to share with you all. Really thankful for Douglas and Molly for giving me this opportunity to write a poem inspired by this comprehensive plan, inspired by the process, inspired by so many voices. So for one, y'all, I don't usually get I always get nervous, but I don't usually get this nervous. Like a lot of y'all in the room, I know y'all, you know what I'm saying? But y'all staring at me like this. I need y'all to help me out this evening, you know? This poem is a call and response poem. So anytime you hear me say, let the rose rise, I need you to say, and rise we will together. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, everybody has a copy of the poem. It's lit, y'all. Let's do this. Okay, cool. So let's practice. You could check it out if you want to and follow along. Let the rose rise. As the saying goes, we will never know where we were headed until we know where we have been. Quite a unique duality between the sacrificial truth and a barbaric reality. In the past, vicious decisions were made that brought us to where we are today. This land, once an honored home to many indigenous tribes, was stolen, causing generational pain and strife. The ills of history are quite a conundrum, and the only way to cease and then prevent us from continuously following it is by enlightening the ignorant, respecting, to slay each of the monsters of poverty that over time have silently and patiently ate away at the fabric of what democracy was supposed to stand for in the first place. Discrimination, exploitation, gentrification too, made the city so oppressive and harsh for far too many to pursue. But best believe we had trailblazers, changing the narrative on purpose. Heroes so bold, aimlessly making Lancaster City a place to be proud of. But who fought for justice and broke the disastrous mold? Examples like Thaddeus Stevens and Lydia Hamilton Smith. The inception of the basis of public education became in our backyard, and saving lives across the proverbial train track underground have solidified their names in our used-to-be town forevermore. Or the story of Barney Yule shaking off the ancestral shackles they said would prevent him from striving to make it all the way to gold. Or the work of our tabernacles, religious institutions, community centers, and schools have done to help sow the seeds of our youth. Who knew they'd grow to reshape a small seed of a red rose into a garden of a city? Their stories we tell, their legacy we must uphold and cherish to make this garden, this city, thrive and flourish. But let's be clear here. Previous strategic planning inherently harmed our most vulnerable neighborhoods. Many of those impacts are still visible today. Homes and community lost. If we're talking unfair, this is the epitome. But no going backwards. Now we're shifting gears, utilizing a new approach to planning, the input of the people, a more equitable than equal understanding to achieve benefits for everyone. And let the roads rise. Our future Lancaster, an affirmation in the name, an evolving and involving vision full of vibrance for our city to reclaim, with over 5,000 voices engaged and heard. If you didn't know, the street piano capital of the world. Culture on every corner, especially in the Southeast. Y'all can meet us there later. Changes can be made with every word we speak as long as we step in unison. Our city's assets, plentiful, unique, and diverse, artistic, walkable. So we stay ahead of the curve with environmentally just trees. Or head downtown to peep the world-renowned architecture. Yet our city is more than just a structure. It's probably better to say we're a red tornado. But let me slow up. Close your eyes for a second for me. Just imagine and try to perceive these changes we want to see. Affordable living for all the people, a thriving business community, for our mom and pop shops especially, better storm drain quality and cleaner water, nonprofits carrying the torches for our sons and daughters to take us to a new regime. And one of the most important, safety in our streets, so our seeds can sprout farther than we could ever believe. You can open your eyes now. With gratitude to everyone's contribution, we offer this plan, the community solution, our future Lancaster, our shared vision. It's up to us now to shape our city's fate, to guide our city's metaphysical growth and mission. Now that community objectives are clearly being heard, to make Lancaster the best version we could create. So let's continue to participate and lend our voice. So in the end, a healthy and vibrant city is our ultimate reward. For a city we can all be proud of to embrace, a place for everyone with love, with grace, to make our future Lancaster our comprehensive choice to let the roads rise. Thank you all so much. Sir Dominique Jordan.
Sir Dominique Jordan, everyone. Round of applause one more time. I appreciate the partnership, the creativity. I actually had chills sitting there listening to that work. So thank you so much again. I'm really excited to see all of you here tonight. My name is Chris Delfs. I'm Director of Community Planning and Economic Development for the City of Lancaster. As the mayor mentioned, we weren't quite imagining the turnout that we have tonight for a comprehensive plan. If you'd asked me a month ago if this would happen, I would say not in my wildest imagination. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Mayor Sorace did an excellent job in setting the context for our presentation this evening. Now it's time to dive further into the technical parts of the plan. Okay, we'll start with City Planning 101. What is a comprehensive plan? Above all else, it is a community vision for our future. That is why it is so vital we have spent 2 years engaging with stakeholders across the city. The comp plan is the foundational document that guides physical growth and change over the next 20 years for the city. And it carries legislative weight as it is ultimately adopted by your city council. In other jurisdictions, the comprehensive plan is often called the general plan, with the idea that the comp plan or the general plan will set the general policy direction for city government and community agencies, institutions, and organizations. You can think of the comp plan as the top of the pyramid. It has a family of plans underneath, and these plans that are within the family may be needed for deeper analysis or direction. Examples include our active transportation plan, the Building on Strength economic development plan for the city, and the upcoming Parks and Recreation master plan. Comp plans usually have written policies that may be citywide in scale or place-based. Comp plans usually have a future land use map and other key maps as well that set parameters for land development, for growth, and for investment. There are many ways to implement a comprehensive plan over this period of 10 to 20 years, and that includes capital projects, partnerships, neighborhood or system plans, work programs, and regulations. The most classic tools for implementing a comp plan are the zoning code and capital improvement program. Okay, before we get into the specifics of the policies and the maps, let's zoom out for a moment. We now have more than 2 years of input from our residents and a great deal of analysis, which is captured in our Lancaster Today existing conditions document and other technical reports that we published as well. As a teacher of mine in grade school, in high school, used to say, so what? Okay, we have the input, we have the data. What have we learned? What are people experiencing, and what has the data told us? Fortunately, the intelligence on the ground aligns for the most part with the numbers we have studied. At the highest level, there are some key trends worth noting here in Lancaster, which for the most part reflect a regional or national picture. First, population growth is anticipated in Lancaster County and here in the city. Second, housing cost burden is rising across many income levels. Third, there's increasing demand for housing units that serve smaller households. We do want to balance that against retaining families and having a diversity of units, but the demographics are shifting such that there's an increasing demand for smaller units. Fourth, revolutions in technology are reshaping the workplace with major implications for both commercial office space and job types. Fifth, climate change is present and it's accelerating, bringing a host of challenges. Sixth, different forms of mobility are evolving that are likely to change how people get around. And last but not least, and this is probably the most important one, it's been threaded throughout our plan, is there is a growing emphasis and need for equity and sharing the benefits and the responsibilities of success. With these trends and others in mind, so hopefully keep that at the forefront here. You can think of those as the backdrop, as the forces driving change. And with those forces driving change, and in consideration of those trends, we crafted over 100 citywide policies and over 50 citywide actions in the materials that you have before you today and will be available for the public after tonight as well. All of these policies and actions intend to respond to the current and emerging needs as defined by our community. The policies and actions are organized into 5 broad planning systems represented in the image on screen and again in your booklets. Each title reflects the central goal of the planning system. So for example, strengthening neighborhoods refers to that central goal. In the slides that follow, we show an important metric that contributed to our policy development, and we highlight top 3 priority areas for each planning system. Please keep in mind the top 3 priorities are not exhaustive. The policies cover a lot of ground, but we thought it was important for this presentation to really distill down into those top 3 priority areas. Okay, first, System 1 is called Strengthening Neighborhoods and Housing and focuses on quality of life in our city neighborhoods. Underpinning quality of life is a stable home. Based on the data, we know the share of city households burdened by housing costs ranges from 41% in the northwest quadrant to as high as 56% in the southeast quadrant, which is quite high compared to the national average. To ensure that the physical components, that the building blocks of strong neighborhoods are present, our policies aim to do 3 main things. Number 1, expand the supply of all kinds of housing, particularly affordable housing. Number 2, improve the quality and the safety of our existing housing stock, which is aging. We have an older housing stock that needs a lot of attention to bring back up to par. Number 3, facilitate targeted investment in neighborhoods and key commercial hubs and corridors. Planning system number 2 contains policies that advance the goal of expanding economic opportunity for our city community, particularly residents in need of good jobs and secure incomes. Understanding the local economy and labor market is important. 52% of city households have a high school or lower educational attainment level, suggesting the need for workforce training in trades and also linking to jobs in sectors that are large or growing. That could be construction and manufacturing, for example, which connects to this notion of workforce training in the trades. To set the stage for equitable prosperity here in the city, our policies aim to do three things: provide land for mixed-use growth and emerging industries and innovation. Number two, prepare the workforce and meet employer labor needs. And number three, promote local businesses and entrepreneurs that reflect the character and the makeup of our community. Planning system number three, connecting people and places. Planning system 3 contains policies that champion connecting people and places, which is imperative for supporting the social and economic fabric here in the city. For measuring our travel patterns, we understand approximately 21% of Lancaster City residents also work in the city. More people commute into the city than out of the city. So we have a regional transportation network that we're dealing with. To enhance connections and the associated benefits, our policies aim to do three top things. One, develop more effective transportation options to link residents to jobs and other primary destinations. Two, eliminate fatalities and serious injuries on the transportation network, particularly for our most vulnerable users. And three, create vibrant public places, spaces, and streets where people want to be. System 4. Planning System 4 is called Growing Greener. It refers to the goal of becoming a more environmentally sustainable community. One indicator that is central to a healthy environment is our tree canopy. Our tree canopy covers 22% of the land here within the city. Between 2014 and 2019, the tree canopy declined by 2.4%. So we were headed in the wrong direction. We are focused on turning that around. Now, to honor and utilize our natural resources broadly and wisely, our policies aim to do three top things. One, improve water quality in the Conestoga River and nearby waterways. Number two, enhance the number and the quality of the parks, recreation facilities, and open spaces. And three, finally, this one is very important, to build resilient public infrastructure that protects the local ecology and mitigates the impacts of climate change. Finally, Planning System 5. This has a range of policies dedicated to building community and capacity. In other words, this is about fostering a happy and healthy city society. The crux of a comprehensive plan is really about physical growth and change, but that physical growth and change should be in the service of social goals, ideally. It's worth noting that in a city with more single-parent households than the national average, we know that approximately 50% of the land in the city is classified as a child care desert for infants and toddlers. So think about that comparison when we have this number of single head of household, and we don't have the child care that is necessary to meet those needs. Above all, our policies in this planning system that are related to community well-being aim to do these three things. Number one, advance public health related to air quality, water quality, good food, and the protection from lead and other hazards. Number two, provide high-quality public services, police and fire, in particular, emergency management, library services, recreation, waste, and social supports. And finally, number three, very important, increase community involvement, as we have in this plan, and community initiatives that bolster civic participation, pride, and interaction. All right, everyone. Very good. I thank you for hanging with me as we covered the core policy content. I know that this part was a little dense, but it was important that we walked through this. It matches with a lot of what you'll see in the gallery and the banners. I will hand the reins over to our Chief Planner, Douglas Smith, who will discuss how these policies play out in our city places and lands. And I think it's worth noting for you map enthusiasts in the room, here comes the good stuff.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? It's really good to see you. Thank you, Chris, for setting the policy stage. And the heart of the comprehensive plan really is about land use. And we're going to start by noting a handful of overarching land use goals and then roll into discussions of two maps that guide the geography and land use decisions. So, before we get into the maps, I just want to share some of these overarching goals. And theme one, I'll start with theme one, enact citywide planning systems through land use. We need to find ways to use land use policy to support our larger citywide policies like affordable housing, transportation, and the environment. And I have a fact at the top of the screen that I think helps to illustrate this. When you picture the train station right now, is it a vibrant pedestrian area? Is it a destination that you need to arrive at? Or is it a destination you leave from? Could it be? Raise your hand if you knew that it was the second busiest station in Pennsylvania. And keep it up if you knew that we have a train station area plan for 2023. All right, lots of you. Oh, that's good, we got the word out, thanks to Manheim Township in part, and the county as well. I mention this as an example for how land use policy can help our community. If we have the right land uses surrounding the train station, we can really transform that area. So number two, modernize city planning practices across the board. There's a lot of work to do here. Codes, ordinances, plans, practices, etc. Not only is our comprehensive plan 30 years old, but we also need to modernize our zoning and our land development code. And there are additional plans and planning analyses that we need to make good decisions. Number three, catalyze development in strategic locations for community well-being. There are areas of the city that we can help along by changing our vision for land use and directing investment, both public and private. So, future land use. Things are starting to get good here. A future land use map is a visual guide to our future planning. It helps determine appropriate locations for land uses and brings together important topics like housing, transportation, natural resources, and economic development. We have developed 8 general categories for future land use that are displayed on the screen. They're also in your booklet. Each land use category allows for a different mix of uses and character of buildings. For instance, the residential district is generally characterized by moderate residential density with little commercial. Neighborhood mixed use includes more multifamily housing and neighborhood commercial. Urban centers is the densest district with ground floor commercial and high density housing. And the big reveal. So here's the future land use map. This is what we've all been waiting for, right? With those categories I just presented, they've been applied to the city land here. There are a few things that may stand out to you, but I want to bring them to your attention just in case. Most of the neighborhoods are colored orange. This indicates mixed-use walkable areas with neighborhood-scale commercial amenities. That should sound familiar because it's many of the neighborhoods that we all live in. We heard from many residents throughout the process that a neighborhood with small businesses was highly desirable. So we're promoting that in this. The downtown area is colored red for urban centers. And this area expands north to include areas around the stadium and the train station. Like most of our downtown, these areas are envisioned to have commercial uses on the ground floor with a mix of commercial and residential above. Multimodal transportation is very important in our densest areas. Finally, you may notice that there are areas that are hatched in 2 colors: Park City Mall, Burrell, Angleside, and the lower portion of Sunnyside. These are areas that could see a blend of 2 districts and require further study. More on that in a later slide. We also thought it was important to provide renderings for the 3 residential districts in the city that I called out. And so these are reference images for us. Thank you to Tippett Weaver for developing these in partnership with us. We did this to emphasize the scale and character of these important neighborhoods, and also how we might see additional development added to these areas. So let's start with the top rendering in yellow. This depicts the residential land use and shows a small-scale multifamily building at the corner, adding density to areas of our city where there is space. The second one, the middle rendering in orange, depicts the neighborhood mixed-use land use and shows commercial buildings at and near the intersections with attached structures along the block. The bottom rendering in red depicts the urban center's land use and shows ground floor commercial throughout, a mix of building heights, and how we might step back the top floor of a building to add height while respecting the city's historic character. Moving on to the second big map. So this is the economic development policy map, and it works in concert with the future land use map. So I'm going to help break this down for you a little bit, because I know it may not be intuitive looking at it, but it highlights areas in light red that we first expect to undergo land use changes within the next 20 years. These areas require small area plans and similar analyses. The map also shows a set of commercial Main Street corridors and hubs that closely align with the city's Building on Strength economic development plan. The commercial corridors are the main urban connectors in the city, which are areas intended to have a mix of land uses and include ground floor commercial. The commercial hubs are distinguished by regional scale in blue, like downtown and Park City Mall, and by community scale in orange, like Angleside and the intersection of Duke and Chesapeake. We've designated certain hubs at both the regional and community scale as emerging, which is indicated by the concentric circles. All of the corridors and hubs indicate the desire for targeted investment, with an emphasis on emerging hubs where some activity is already taking place, but more resources are needed to help them along. So now onto a more unique part of our comprehensive plan. Over the last 2 years, the planning process has made it clear that the Conestoga riverfront needs to be reimagined. It is an asset to the city and the region that is overdue for more attention and investment. So we have a separate part of the plan that addresses this specifically. And we are proposing a vision on how that can happen. And to start, we've identified 4 core priorities for the riverfront. Number 1, ecology. We must align and progress natural conservation and watershed quality efforts to improve personal health outcomes, biodiversity, while also planning for flood resilience and mitigating the impacts of climate change. Second one is education. We must provide educational and workforce learning opportunities related to water systems and environmental health. These are often known as green-collar jobs. Recreation. We must develop recreational opportunities that support exercise, enjoyment, learning, tourism, and also business growth. Finally, economic development. We must encourage investment at select areas where mixed-use building is appropriate and beneficial. So let's dive in a little further. This is a conceptual map where we see the greatest opportunity, and we've focused here on recreational opportunities and redevelopment. First, you'll notice that there are 5 key sites marked where we see major opportunities, and I'll address these in a moment, but just don't lose sight of them. The red lines that extend from each of those locations are walk sheds. These are 5 and 10-minute walking distances and demonstrate the connectivity of our neighborhoods to the river and these key destinations. We've also identified a variety of amenities. 5 boat launch locations are on this map, and several areas where there could be in-river amenities, such as a white water course, ropes course, or even swimming. We've also identified the Sunnyside Peninsula as an environmental center, where the city already owns a 70-acre tract of land. And lastly, we depict a continuous river trail for boaters and greenway trails along the river. Now, I want to help you visualize a little bit more what each of these 5 key sites look like. And I'm going to make a technological leap here at the same time. So, as you know, we are in the process of updating our comprehensive plan. After 15,000 engagement interactions and extensive study of the city, we know the Conestoga River is very important to the community and the health of our environment. So our comprehensive plan is presenting a new vision for that river, and it's the Conestoga Riverfront Reimagined. For more than 100 years, our community has turned its back on the Conestoga River, using it for sewage disposal and dumping when it was once drinkable, teeming with so many fish that you could nearly walk across the water. Based on community engagement and study of the river, the comprehensive plan will include a vision on how the Conestoga River can be improved for people, the economy, and the environment. And we've identified key locations for investment in new facilities that will help revitalize the riverfront. Number 1, Conestoga Pines Park, an existing city park with a park plan already prepared. The community has envisioned forest restoration, 2 boat launches, a trailhead, a wetland boardwalk, a multi-use trail that uses an existing bridge connection to an accessible fishing pier. McCaskey High School presents an important opportunity for community connection. Number 2, Bridgeport. This is an important gateway to the city, but it actually sits just outside of our boundary. Nonetheless, the city and surrounding municipalities have all worked together to create a plan for a new pedestrian-oriented town center. It would connect to the river by trail and boat launch, complement the community college, and also connect to the city via King Street. Number 3, Sunnyside Peninsula, once considered for clear-cutting and major development. This place shines for what it is, a natural beauty in the southeast. Let's encourage environmental design for new buildings. Let's use the 70-acre tract that's already owned by the city for a recreation and nature preserve with an environmental center connected by greenways. Can you also imagine the Lancaster County Park? Of all 5 locations, the most residents live within a 10-minute walking distance of this one. Let's enhance those neighborhood connections with better sidewalks, bike paths, and trails, and encourage multifamily and commercial development along Duke Street. Number 5, Angleside. Last but not least, the southern end of the city and a major transportation node. It includes 2 adjacent townships and includes reuse opportunities. Let's envision this area as a new commercial district and gateway to the river and Book-Miller Park to the south. The city is already planning a trail along Water Street, which would arrive at Angleside and could connect to an existing unused bridge. The Conestoga River is poised to be a centerpiece to the economic and cultural identity of Lancaster City and the metro region. So let's make it happen. And please learn more at ourfuturelancaster.com. Thank you very much. That concludes our presentation of the draft policies and maps. I know that was a lot of information, but remember, we are recording this presentation for your viewing pleasure, and the booklet you have contains this information. I do want to give a shout out to those watching on live stream too. Thank you very much for those tuning in. And next, the mayor is going to lead a conversation with community leaders from Lancaster City. Mayor and guest panelists, I'd like to hand it off to you.
So while our guests are arriving on stage, I just want to take a minute and thank our interpreters here that are here tonight. ASL, Swahili, I think maybe some Spanish language interpretation, so just appreciate you helping. Also, if you are a member of the city's executive leadership team, will you please stand up? our Chief of Police, Chief of Fire, Chief Mendez, Chief Hutchinson, Steve Campbell, Jess King, Milsey Carrasco, Barry Handberger, and of course, Chris Delfs. All right, so come on up. So I am super excited to be joined on the stage tonight by three folks that I'm going to briefly introduce to you. Most of you know who they are anyway, but I'm going to start with Mr. Jose Lopez on my far left. Is the president of the Lancaster City Spanish American Civic Association that was established in 1973, celebrating 50 years of service. 50 years of service, wow. To the City of Lancaster, providing a wide range of human, economic, and social services to our diverse city. So thank you, Jose, for saying yes. Next, we have Will Clark, who is the Director of Land Use and Transportation at Lancaster County Planning. We appreciate our partnership with Lancaster County Planning, and thank you for being here tonight. And Ms. Maxine Cook, so good to see you. A member of our Comprehensive Plan Committee, Planning Commission, and a most recently elected to our Home Rule Study Commission. So thank you for that. So each of you represents a really unique part of our comp plan, from nonprofit partner to county land planning to a citizen and community leader. And I have really just two questions for you tonight, and I know they're big questions, so we're going to try to keep it tight. But I want to just start out with, given your experience in the comp plan, what element of the comprehensive plan do you think could have the greatest impact for the community? And Maxine, I'm going to start with you. The element that has the greatest, that you think has the greatest impact for our community, because like the word comprehensive, it's like really comprehensive. So we want to hear from you. What is the element that you're really keying in on tonight?
Right. So comprehensive is big, and so and impact. What has the greatest impact? So in my opinion, in working with the planning committee over so much time and with so much input from around the city, I think the biggest impact could be transformation. I think that if these plans in every area of the comp plan are really executed and in a timely way that even some of us sitting in the room would be able to see the change that's coming, I think it would transform our communities.
Thanks, Maxine. So, Will, what you got?
Yeah, keep it concise, right? Yeah. Is that what you said? Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I see is that Conestoga River thing is my favorite part of the plan. But I'll go a little bit smaller and go to that implementation side. And I think there's two things together, and that's Vision Zero and the continuation of Vision Zero and making the streets safer. That's definitely paramount. But in connection with that is strengthening the neighborhoods by providing the businesses that people want to walk to and shorten their trips so that we don't have to travel as much by automobile is going to be one of the key components between transportation and land use. I think if they can be pulled off, they'll have a biggest impact to everybody's daily lives as anything else in the comprehensive plan is in there.
I agree. And wouldn't it be awesome if we had fewer cars in the city? For a city that was never built to have as many cars as we have, like just walking places and feeling comfortable and safe doing that would be really great. And more affordable. Man, cars are expensive. Jose, what you got?
Affordable housing is a big need, especially for families that are low and moderate income. And I mean, that's been a focus of the mission of SACA to provide that opportunity. And so I think it's critical that continues to be a priority in our community. I did want to mention that it was 30 years ago and I was a one-year member of the Planning Commission, and I sat through this whole process of the comprehensive plan. And what a learning experience that was. And for those all that volunteered, thank you, because it was a comprehensive process that was undertaken at the time. Not with all the fancy technology that we have today, because back then we were just typing things and writing hand notes. It's hard to believe that 30 years ago you had that, but yeah. And Paula Jackson, she was our chief planner.
Yes, she was.
Yes.
Very good. You know, I will say that I came in tonight feeling super excited and very pumped up about this plan. And as I'm hearing it and it's becoming public, I have to tell you that even just like a week ago, the executive leadership team had a retreat, and we're already beginning to take these policy pieces and think about how we're going to get them done. And I can also tell you that it's going to take all of us. It's really going to take a lot of work, because for the transformation, for the connection that you're talking about, Will, and the affordable housing, all of that stuff is going to take a kind of leaning in. And it's been really interesting, the connections between our ARPA engagement, the American Rescue Plan Act engagement, and the priorities that came from that, which the number one was affordable housing, and the investments that have been made, knowing that that's a one-time shot. But we got to figure out how to do it more than once. And so that is a continued challenge for us. So, okay, next question. All right, this is more personal to each of you. So, Jose, I will start with you. What's the single greatest barrier to raising the household incomes in Lancaster? And what should our comprehensive plan do to address it?
So I view the lack of equitable economic opportunity as a big hindrance to raising income in our community. It is critical that whatever strategies get implemented are inclusive of the entire community. Specifically, the community that we serve through SACA, the low moderate income community. I think that's a critical thing that needs to occur.
Agree. All right, Will, you sit at the county, which has been doing land planning, you know, obviously for a much larger region than the city of Lancaster. And we know that transportation and land use are intertwined. It was what you just talked about. How can the city and the metro region plan for these topics effectively? Like, we've seen some of the linkages, especially in that last video about the connections to Bridgeport and all out and around in the county, and the connections with our active transportation plan. What advice do you have for us about how we can all do this better?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I would say is that the communication has already started with the neighbors, right? I mean, it's always been going on. But when you look at the opportunities that were identified by Douglas in the areas that are there that need additional planning, they're all in the border. And I think one of those reasons is because it's been it's hard to get someone to take charge when there's many borders involved. So I think someone taking charge and taking community charge, and I think the planning department for the county has done that a couple times with the Bridgeport study, with the Lancaster train station study. So I think utilizing the partners all across the board is the best way to do that and continue to do that planning.
And I think it's so great that you guys, the county, with in combination with other municipalities, is casting a vision. Like, the vision is so important. Like, when I saw, many of you raised your hands about the Lancaster train station, and you got to see some of the plans that were being conceptualized for that. Just casting that vision, just like, wow, like, this is what this could be, and that's part of this process. And so we really appreciate that and those connections, and just keep going, right? Yeah, just keep going. So, Maxine, you've been part of all of this, right? You've been part of the Comprehensive Plan Committee. You're on the Planning Commission. Can you talk a little bit about, like, as a resident, how does this all hit you in terms of, like, what you've learned through the process, what you talk to your friends and neighbors about related to your roles in this whole process?
Wow. So that's a lot as well. So one thing is, having lived in every quadrant of the city over my life, the most being in the southeast, I recognize from a young teenager and parent at that time, just how much we lack in the Southeast, right? And so that we're just not the same as the other quadrants of the city. And you can't quite put your finger on it, but everything with the comprehensive plan seems to be a viable way of addressing needs, bringing people together, and creating, again, transforming a community. Having been on the planning committee since, I don't know when we started, 2022, or no, it was 21, right? So we were in COVID. You know, you had all of these other committee members from around the city, and all having these different ideas and observations about what needs to happen, what we all want to see. And just hearing those different things, I've seen like all of those things. And there's no way that we shouldn't be able to work together as a community and community government to, and organizations to make this the vibrant community that it could be.
Yes, thank you. I think that, Sir Dominique, Jordan referenced this in his poem about the history of planning in our country and the harm that it has done. And we are still working at that in terms of the harm that it has done in the Southeast in particular. And, you know, it was not until last year that the scar that was the 100 block of North Queen Street took 50 years for that to become something other than once it was what it was for 50 years, which is just amazing. Which also just gives me pause for, like, we're a lot more impatient than that. Can we do more of this than we don't have 50 years to wait to get some of these things done? So, all right, this is my panel. Give a round of applause to them. Thank you. All right, I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Smith.
All right. Hey, one more round of applause for Mayor Sorace and the panelists. Thank you very much. We are nearing the end of our formal program, but I first just want to go over next steps with you, because I'm hoping that you all want to remain engaged in this. Ultimately, a comprehensive plan is required to be adopted by City Council, and the state of Pennsylvania outlines a specific process for how we need to go about that. We will follow that process and also allow for community engagement along the way. The schedule on the screen is also on the back of your booklet that I hope you'll take with you, share with friends and neighbors, and please note that this schedule is a draft and could be subject to change. But I encourage you to read this carefully. For the sake of time, I just want to point out 4 key public meeting opportunities. I've starred them in orange on the screen. During July and August, we will be discussing this plan with the Planning Commission. I hope you'll join us for those. Many of the materials that you see outside will be there again for us to consider and discuss. At one of those meetings, city staff will seek the formal recommendation from the Planning Commission to City Council for adoption. In October, we are planning to introduce the plan to City Council Committee, then seek adoption at the end of the month from full council. If all goes according to plan, then we hope to have an adopted comprehensive plan by the end of October, at least before the end of the year. So to stay informed on this process, please visit our website, Our Future Lancaster, and please reach out if you have any questions. So I want to thank each and every one of you one last time for taking the time to be out here on a Wednesday night to learn about Our Future Lancaster. The fact that we filled this venue for a policy document is very impressive, and honestly, it speaks to the level of community engagement that we've had all along the way. We are working hard to do this together, and again, I want to thank the city staff team that really helped make that a reality. Now I want to introduce to you someone very special to Lancaster City, who will be offering our closing and poetic words for this program. For the first time in Lancaster City's history, we have our own poet laureate. And I'm so glad that we're including arts in this program tonight. Chosen by a diverse 12-member committee that included artists, activists, educators, and other professionals, the laureate was picked from a pool of 15 applicants. I introduce to you a co-owner of A Concrete Rose, a featured artist at the Pennsylvania Governor's Arts Awards, and a very talented poet who has been featured locally, nationally, and internationally, Lancaster City's Poet Laureate, Evita Cologne.
Wow, what an honor. What an introduction. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I'm a girl a woman now from the Southeast, and to see myself on this stage, it speaks to the inner child that was in Southeast that felt like we were forgotten many times. So this is amazing for this to come full circle, so thank you all for that. And I will share with you our future Lancaster. We are like the quilt work of the Amish, many colorful pieces sewn in with the intentionality of togetherness, each piece of us standing out. Stand back and view Lancaster's beautiful display. May we sow seeds of understanding which harvest in our future's garden, exhibiting the art-filled guide with a diverse bouquet. Let our differences be the flowers crocheted in the fabric of our tomorrow. Let our home find strength in our sorrows, the impact of our planning reaching pinnacles, the heights of the Kilimanjaro, spanning cities far and wide. Familiarize yourself with the plight in your neighbor's eye. Let our future be the wind left behind in Barney Yule's stride. We are in this race together. We must hear the song of the Conestoga's cries. The success of our purpose shall be more than a glistening prize to the tourist's eyes. We cannot grow under the guise of togetherness. Unity realizes that some have been left behind. So this time, we will lift our voices. We will build champions from our challenges. We make transformation from inequitable imbalances without the fear of old norms. We move forward full throttle. I imagine Lancaster being the model of an embrace of home, a place that people of all walks of life never feel alone, where the artist paints the story of the foundation of which we grown. The voice and needs of our people are enthroned. May our small businesses be the economic tone of reaping the harvest of the seeds the community has sown. Acknowledge, inclusivity requires accountability. Our rise requires responsibility, from the nonprofit's mobility to the advocate's strength and agility. We know the beauty of the red rose is knowing the concrete's fertility and durability, bringing visibility to the nourishment of the indigenous hands, an ability to bring humility to the continued growth of a stolen land. Our future Lancaster is not only an affirmation, but command. From Cunningham's to Wattenshand, we are more than just a brand. Our future takes the collective garden of voices and experiences, honors the culture of all of its people, and expands. What our community will grow to be is now in your hands. Thank you.